Now this morning, as I'm out here freezing flipping battery chargers, all I can say is I smelled something out here in the garage, and it's Karen cooking inside the house. So I'm going to expedite things out here, get in there and see what she's doing. They're predicting snow. We have ice on the pond, but I could smell those cookies or whatever the hell she's making out here, and it's delicious. I'm motivated. It is really brutally cold out there. Brutal. But not in my house. My house, it's always warm. You know, I could smell these blueberry muffins out in the garage.
They haven't baked yet.
Ooh, and I could smell the stuff that's in the oven. What's in the oven? Cookies?
Cookies from
Oh, God, you're torturing me. I'm not going to get anything done today.
To see if they're ready.
I've been steamed. Wow. You're going to have one happy grandson, one happy husband this afternoon. Now whenever I come down in the shop and there's the smell of cookies permeating the air, the taste of coffee, and I look over at my project table and say, what do I want to do today? Let's see, it's 24 degrees outside. There's ice on the pond. Do I want to go outside and work in the garage? Nah, I think I'll work in here. Anyway, we got plenty of projects, and sequencing up this day won't be much of a challenge. So I try to plan out a day that's going to be a very short day, because we have a lot of family stuff to do today, but I thought, well, you know, it's 24 degrees outside. Maybe I'd like to be in a cellar today. And the same thing with the fork legs. I was thinking, yeah, I'll go out and swap the fork legs out, and then I said, I went outside, chopped some ice on a pond, and I said, the hell with it, I'm going to stay inside today. See, that's the problem. Every day I have to decide what part of the project I want to work on. It's like when you build a house. You got to decide, do you want to build a chimney or do you want to put the sidewalk in? Then I thought a perfect choice, because I could stay in the cellar, basically. And I have the bolts, the new bolts, all polished up. And it would be a great day to install the discs. Now you might have noticed that I left the masking on the bearings right up to the very last minute. And normally, if I hadn't done this about a year ago when I swapped tires, I re-greased the bearings. That would be one less job. I'd pull them out right now and redo them. But I don't think after a year we need to do it. But hey, what I'm very excited about, once I get this masking tape off of here, I want to make sure the surface where the discs are going to go is flat as can be. I don't want to have any pieces of tape. I don't want to have any paint. I don't want anything. It's important to get everything on that surface perfectly clean so the disc lays nice and flat. Now, I still stay in touch with a lot of my modeling friends, and it's amazing how many people that from the world of model aviation like motorcycling. They have interest in both. And so I thought what I'd do today, at the end of this video, since it's going to be a short day, I have some video that I thought I'd share with everybody, and maybe even the motorcycle people will enjoy it once I get these discs installed. I took several trips to Texas to compete in model aviation contests. And when we were down there, I want to set the stage for this. When we were down there, Bill Rutherford, the late Bill Rutherford, arranged that we got to meet and spend some time with a gentleman that had a Spitfire. Now, if you want to know how rare having your own Spitfire is, at the time we went, there were only 52 left in the world flyable. He had one of them in Houston, Texas, and he had it in his own hangar, on his own property, in his own backyard, with his own airport right next door. He could taxi right up to his house in a community of people that all owned airplanes. And he was such a nice guy. He was so interested in our models, and he actually had motorcycles too. But I think they were Harleys, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to put a little bit of that video at the end of this video, just a little preview. But anyway, so if you're a modeler and you're watching this, see, the modeler people like to know about the paint, and there's a lot of crossover technology. But getting this all clean and flat, And of course I'll do the other side. This really gets us ready for finalizing this wheel so that, God forbid, it should ever warm up out there, we could start putting a motorcycle together. Now in modeling, we always used to call it crossover technology. And crossover technology is always when you can take the technology from one thing and use it on a totally different thing. Like you can take the fact that carbon fiber parts are used in aviation and you can make golf clubs out of them. That's crossover technology. So, and the thing with modeling, and a lot of people, they're motorcyclists and maybe they don't know this, the skill level to build some of the modern model planes is let me tell you, it is way more intense than what I'm doing on this restoration. This restoration is relaxing compared to building model planes. Anyway, but whole nother subject. That Spitfire thing is a true, absolutely, in my lifetime, it was one of the coolest things. I mean, there are only, and I've been to England twice, and I've been to Duxford and all the museums, and I've touched a lot of the Spitfires. I say touched. They let you go if they know you're a modeler. Usually, especially in England, they'll let you go behind the scenes and they'll spend a little extra time with you, especially at some of the smaller museums. And I think I've been to all of them. I'm not sure I have, but probably have. And still have quite a few friends in England. Still keep in touch with a lot of the modelers. And so I thought that Spitfire thing will be fun at the end of this day. But right now it's a motorcycle day. I have spent so much time on this wheel. I'm so proud of it. And I have the discs to put on, and I have brand new bolts, and I am so excited. I can't wait to put this thing together. So the one thing I wanted to do here is thank Vlad for getting me. These are EBC rotors. And what really happened years and years ago, when we first got the bike, the rotors that came with the bike were, and they didn't get any better from 3 years of track days. They were pretty warped up. Now what we did, and I've made a video of it, of making sure the buttons were loose, that helped a little bit. Other things, but new pads helped a little bit. Everything helps a little bit, but nothing solves the problem. This solves the problem. And they were, thanks to Vlad, who has gotten me the tires for this project and gotten me the, among other things. Now, what I wanted to see with this, since I'm replacing the bolts, I want to make sure I Loctite them all. Drop a Loctite on each one. I want to tighten them up in a star pattern, the way you would put the head on an engine. And without making a big deal out of it, I'm hopefully going to get this wheel absolutely finished today. There's really nothing left to do to this wheel. And what I realized right now, this is pretty cool, is that you can look down in here and you can see a lot that you actually can look through the discs and see how that worked out. I didn't know how cool that was going to be. That actually is a nice little, I didn't know that was going to happen. I almost forgot to mention, I got all these bolts from Bolt Depot, the matching washers, which I forgot to put on. I will retrofit a washer here. This is what happens when you get old. Now Yamaha calls for blue thread lock for this part. And of course, I just forgot to put the washer on the first time through. Probably I just didn't have enough coffee. That's always the problem. Blame the coffee. So I thought I'd pass on some other information that I know is correct from my engineering background. When they calculate out the torque of a bolt, a lot of things they take into account. We don't need to go into any of the real scientific things, material of the bolt and what it's, the expansion rates and everything, but here's what they do. They always calculate in if the part has a washer or not a washer. Because if I put a washer on this, I change, in essence, how tight the bolt has to be for a given torque setting. So let me just give you an example. If I were to tighten this bolt down to 85 foot-pounds, and then I put 2 washers on, I'd probably have to go to 90 pounds. 3 washers, more. every time you add a washer or add a clutch face, you've got to tighten it more because that load is spread out over a wider range. And so, and the way we know this in the real world is when you tighten down, this is really funny that we're talking about model planes. You tighten down a model airplane propeller and you put a washer here and another washer and a washer, you can't even make it tight enough that the prop is going to be on. There's a point at which I always like to know if, in this case, if these bolts came with washers. Some come with lock washers, some without, because the torque setting ultimately is determined by how many washers, if any, are on the part. Now it is funny, I have had a lot of people ask me, how do I know all this stuff about carbon fiber and about titanium and how do I know all this stuff? Well, you know, it's from modeling, because this is the skills you have to have, and you have to develop over a lifetime. Some of these skills are very, very difficult to learn. But anyway, just imagine. I always say, building a motorcycle, like we're building this motorcycle, restoring it, we're into the 4th month. The typical planes I made took a year to make. That was pretty typical. And the skill level was every bit as intense, maybe more, except they had to fly. That made it a little bit more difficult. But anyway, some people know that, some people don't. Maybe you appreciate it, maybe you don't. Doesn't really matter. That Spitfire thing, though, that guy that restored that Spitfire, boy, I will never in my life forget, because he was doing a restoration like we're doing that was 1,000 times harder, and it had to fly. That was at the end of it. And there were only, God, I have to look online and see how many are still flyable. At that point in time, there were so few. Now I'm just going to do this before I get the torque wrench out. Get these snug down like a star pattern. And when I took these apart, I did put a scratch on the one that marries up to the scratch. So I know I've replaced the same side with the same side. I'm not sure if that has any value at all. Now, something that may be a point of interest, this happens to be my shop bathroom. I have these discs up here to remind me about disc brakes. These belong on a GS Suzuki. I have gone through, I believe, 3 sets before I did the last West Cooley restoration. I had gotten EBC rotors. I have one of the closets outside, I bet has 6 or 8 of these in them. And they used to always be a problem. They'd warp up. It'd be and Suzuki replaced them. When you bought the bike, they replaced them free. The year after it ran out of warranty, you had to buy your own disc. But notice what the problem is. A lot of people don't understand this. And within our group of friends, some people are not knowledgeable about this. And maybe I'm one of them. But this is a solid piece. It's stamped out of one piece of proprietary steel. Now, the problem is, and this is a real problem, this can't move side to side. So a lot of times when these warp, the lever will just make you crazy. Now what they do with modern discs, they float. These go back and forth from side to side just a little bit. And I remember when Luciano gave Glenn the bike that we're going to work on in a couple of days, the front rotor had buttons that were really loose because it was a racing bike. And that was a problem. That Glenn was afraid the thing was really rattling around, but on a race bike, that's pretty typical. And I saved the original rotors up here just to remind me, and I had cleaned the buttons several times. I videotaped that. I did so many things to make these better, but there's just no substitute. You can do everything you want, and even replacing the pucks and everything. And in the end, nothing beats having 2 nice new brake discs, especially if they're a high quality like EBC or stock ones. Now speaking of that, I noticed these are relatively tight. In other words, these buttons are a little bit, this is a high-tech system that they have, EBC has. And some of them, I don't know if this is ones that have square buttons. Some of them do. They're pretty high-tech things. They're really nice, but again, I would say if you have braking issues and a lever that's going like that, boy, not many things beat new EBC rotors. And again, thank you, Vlad. Now, I wanted to make sure I thank Pokey, too, who got me some discs for the GS, some EBCs years ago. and we got good service out of them, of course. Seems like EBC is just a good quality product. But anyway, there's nothing more thrilling than doing a track day where you're really happy with the way your brakes are working, and then all of a sudden they start to go down the drain. That can really get your full attention. It can really make you aware of just why good quality stuff just worth every penny. And on this bike, if I were to restore this bike and still have the braking issues, it would take the fun out of the restoration. Another little tip worth sharing: when you go to put the calipers back, the wheel is installed, and you go to put the calipers back, it's really important to spread the pucks as far as possible so that they go around the corner. If you picture when it goes around the corner, because if they're too tight, you wind up gouging, and I know I've scratched rims in the past. So what I think I'll do is, when I put these in, I'll just be real safe, put some green or blue tape here, spread the two calipers out, and put those wood, I have little wood blocks to put in there, so that when they go around the corner, you don't have to, and they just touch. And in this case, with all this work we did with the paint, I don't want to take any chance. Now, I just looked up on the buttons here, and this has the non-rotating buttons, the D buttons. And the EBCs, of course, in the past had come with various, I call them high-tech things, and it's really the best of all worlds. You don't get the rattle. See, if you have loose, what happens when these are really loose, like on a real race bike, when they're very loose, you hit a bump and you thump. Well, this cures that problem. They have a little, like a wave washer on the back of each one. Quite a nice system. Really high quality stuff. There's one final little part to polish here. This is the little spacer that separates the wheel from the fork on the brake side. I'm going to polish that up. That's going to be one of the final pieces of getting the whole front end polished and really in nice shape. Now, here's a tip I wanted to share. I know a lot of people do know this, some don't. So even if it saves one person, you don't want to take this over to the polishing wheel when it's got grease on it. So what I do, I always take it far from the parts, because this can destroy paint, especially when it's fresh and new. So I'll spray a little bit on a paper towel, clean this up. I don't want anything going on to the polishing wheel that's basically going to add a load of grease or grit or grime or anything. Now you really don't see much of that spacer, but you do see just enough. I think it pays to polish it. Another small detail. Now, even on a short day like this was, I am just very happy we got one more piece of the puzzle. And one more tiny piece, but this is what a whole restoration is, just a lot of little pieces. These are some pictures from my modeling museum that's in the attic of my house. And why seeing this Spitfire in real life was just a giant thrill. Dave Downey, Joe Adamusco, and I collaborated on this Spitfire design, and we built several of them between us. They were very competitive, and I still enjoy owning them. Now, it's really cool because I've seen MotoGP people that at the end of the year they get to keep their bike and put it in their bedroom and everything. Well, in my case, since I made all the planes, I get to keep them all. Anyway, along with these poster-sized pictures that remind me of a 50-plus year career in model aviation, the fun I had, the friends I interacted with, and a lot of them ride motorcycles. An awful lot of them. And in the attic of my house, for the people that have visited here and gotten to see my little museum, it's a lot of fun. I take a lot of pride in these models. I spent basically the better part of my life building a lot of them. And now, added to that, all the restorations we're doing. So I hope you enjoyed the footage of Houston, Texas, and thank you to all the people in Texas, especially Bill Rutherford, that arranged for us to be this man's guest. He was a very special part of my life. I hope you enjoy sharing it. So what I really wanted to do today, get this part of the puzzle put back. I'm real happy about this whole project so far. This project has kept me young, or tried to keep me young. It almost succeeded in keeping me young. It didn't succeed at all in keeping me young. Anyway, to my modeling friends and people that have an interest in World War II Spitfires, Dave Downey, Joe Adamusco, and I collaborated on making Spitfire models. I have 3 of them still up in the museum upstairs. And this is a great video. This is the rarest of rare things that somebody owns their own private Spitfire. That's millions. I don't even know how many million. And supposedly, if I put the whole video out there, it's about a 2-hour video. The whole video, he detailed out every step of the restoration. It was like restoring 100 motorcycles. And it flies. And it's a piece of history, a World War II Spitfire. Anyway, we got to experience it live, and now you can through the miracle of YouTube. So thanks for watching. And if you don't enjoy the Spitfire, tune this off now and watch whatever makes you happy. And thanks for watching. Physically touched all the Spitfires in England that were in museums. I'm touching this one here. The gentleman that owns this is on the phone. Whoa. And this is for you, Joe. Joe Adamusco. We want to do a little detail walk around. Whoa, man.
Did you work on this? No.
Boy, this is about as pristine as it gets, huh?
Oh, this is a Raven put, I think about 12.
This is cleaner than the ones that were in Duxford. Wow, man, yeah, there's a lot of. Is this the way this would be less on a reel if I can?
That's a rifled barrel. Now, whether it's
less as a gun guy, so. Whoa, man, alive! Look at the radiators on this. Joe, I'm doing this for you, baby. Oh, man. Now it's a snowy day up here in Rutherford, and I just thought I'd look back at a great memory from our trip to Houston, where we got to see one of the very few flyable Spitfires left in the world. Check this out. This is a very rare World War II Spitfire that this gentleman restored himself. This is pretty cool stuff. How cool is this? And it's all real, and it's from our Houston trip.
You never get exhaust stain in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there back, they're white. This is in Houston, Texas, by the way. Ports, and then of course to keep it aerodynamically clean, and then shoot right through the tape. You can feel the tape, the tape lines from the new paint. You can feel the tape lines, Bill.
Yeah.
Man, what a piece of work. What a piece of work. I'm going to go over there, yeah. I want to. All right, it's an early one.
I've got all the mission reports and all that business. And it's painted just like...
Now when I was in England, I got to see pretty much all the flyable Spitfires that are in England. There's about 49 of them, if I remember right.
During the Normandy invasion.
But this one is based in Houston. This gentleman restored it himself. He invited us to come down and see it. We were his guest, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I bought it off a post. Basically, it was a gate guard in the Royal Dutch Air Force Academy at DeLand, and it had been sitting on a post from 1958 to 1992. It was a corroded mess.
right.
And it took 10 years to rebuild.
Oh, I well believe that.
And about 20,000 dollars. And
And dollars too numerous to mention.
a lot of dollars.
Oh yeah, the dollars you can't even.
But we did all the sheet metal work in-house. And the only sheet metal work we did not do in-house is actually I bought made, and we made the bottom cowl part of it.
Is this fiberglass? So this has a Rolls-Royce engine?
Yes, it has.
What mark is this?
9.
A 9? Okay.
Yeah, it has wooden propeller. It's pretty fast. It's surprisingly fast. I had flown a 51 some, but I had never flown a Spitfire. 51 is something of a ground level because of its laminar flow airfoil. It takes a long time to get off the ground, and it has a lot of torque. This thing, I don't even use any rudder trim on the tail. It's got such a long moment arm to the tail that you can just control it with the rudder, and the rudder's relatively light, even though it has 1,810 horsepower. And so it's the P-51D, the only one I've ever I haven't since I flew. That's the only one I've ever flown is a D model. And the D model had an anti-servo tab because when it's up cruising, it tended to be crooked, and that anti-servo tab kept it straight now on the rudder, but it also gave you hell on takeoff because you put full rudder trim in it, and then you just stood on the damn thing with your right foot. This thing is pretty damn docile on takeoff. It's much more docile than I was used to with the 51. But you can see out of the 51 when it's flying. This son of a bitch you don't see either.
I remember you saying that the 51 was a shorter than here, but this one.
No, it's so much lighter. You know, 51 all up into weight is about 7,800 pounds. This only weighs 5,400 pounds.
How did you get the plane here?
Put it in a crate. Took the wings off of it, tail section off of it, and stuck it all in a shipping crate. Really wasn't that horribly expensive. To ship it from Holland was $6,000.
Did you put it in a container?
Yeah, I put it in a shipping container.
20 foot?
20-foot shipping. And, you know, hell, they just picked it up. They delivered it right out here on the road, and we took it out and put it on tables that we built, actually, great big old heavy tables, and we just stuck the airplane on it, wheeled it in pieces.
But a 20-foot container for me from China was about $6,000.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Amazingly cheap.
Now, of course, I had to go over there and disassemble this damn thing and build all the forms to hold it and everything. But I had some pretty good help.
You should have called me. I was available.
But we're available now, right? But it has been an ordeal to get most of the boats out of it. We just about got them all.
How many hours of flying does it have on it?
I don't know. It had 161 combat hours, and I've flown it 98 hours since I finished.
It's really got about 300.
And I don't have any idea of the non-combat hours it flew because the aircraft logs were destroyed in 1958. So I have no way of knowing what its total time is. But I have all the combat records on the airplane. I have every scrap of paper, and it's really interesting when you go through them. It shows every mission.
Did you buy this from the RAF or?
No. This airplane was sold to the Dutch in 1946. H1 is in the.
Looking at the bottom of the wing here for some of the detailing. Joe would probably be interested in this.
But yes, I've got pictures of it during its construction phase. Corrosion was just terrible. This wing was the first wing we
The
did.
invasion stripes.
And it took us a year and a half to do this wing. And we replaced about 60% of it. All the spars, all the ribs in the rear. I'm ready to go. Let's go. This is my wife's name.
Wendy, the restoration on this is flawless.
This is unbelievable. I'll tell you, talk about being worth the trip, huh?
You know, I'll tell you, if you were going to build another spit,
It would be cool to make.
detail in here would be excellent.
Yeah, I got to mention to Joe.
I mean, you could get in here with some decent light, photograph the instrument panel, create all this, you know.
This is a nice paint job too with the, you know, look at that with the invasion stripes, the cannon blisters.
It has the Mark 9.
Look at, just look at all the details in the fillet.
Oh, I know.
You got a little bump here, a little blister there, rivet lines.
It's absolutely immaculate. You got to see. You can't believe how you can rub this and you can feel the paint line. Unbelievable. This is really adds a dimension to the word museum quality.
And if you wanted to do proper lettering, it's all here.
What they did is they put a two-stage, two-speed supercharger.
Look at this. They even have a hatch for adjusting a control horn in the back.
Really?
They call it weight or ballast.
Yeah.
But they even have a... Then look at this. I didn't know anything like that existed.
Piece of work. What's impressing the hell out of me is how clean it is.
So I see what he meant when he said he had a flat problem.
Yeah. They're waiting for some flat parts to be machined.
Look at this detail for a light ink job.
Yeah, Joe has this on his. Joe has this on his Spitfire. He made a copy of this, a pattern. And of course, Joe, he has a picture of you, your Spitfire, my Spitfire, right in his shop, in his laundry basket, in fact. How cool is that? There's other planes in here.
Think about taking wheel pants apart that way?
No, that's pretty cool. This looks like a V-tail home built back there, but to be honest, the Spitfire's got my attention.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It's a nightmare to clean. I mean, you re-clean. And it leaks. You can keep this
It's work pretty cool, huh, John?
One of these days, I'm going to get my zero back from John.
Yeah, I'm going to take one to show you. There's a paint shop behind my hand. Regulars not saying
Well, yeah, I'm telling you.
That's some workmanship, boy. That's.
It's a wooden prop.
Yeah, he said.
Made in Germany.
So what kind of wood is that prop made out of, do you know? And
I don't know.
it's got some kind of finish or tape on the leading edge?
It's got to be laminated.
Some kind of tape or vinyl on the leading edge. Look at the prop tips. And they're reversed, of course. This engine turns backwards?
No.
Turns normal rotation?
Yeah.
Would these normally turn the other way?
No.
Or the 5 blades turn the other way? What, the Griffins?
No, I think the Griffin went this way too. Most British airplanes went the other way, but the Merlin did not.
Oh.
This is a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, Rolls-Royce Merlin. You see, this had 200 and some odd more horsepower than the Mustang.
And it's lighter.
And it's lighter. But what this could do for an hour, a Mustang could do for 8.
Right. Well, you know I'm a Mustang fan, but you know for an hour, that'd be the funnest ever.
Most of the time what they were doing was over with in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of overkill. The other 7 hours weren't real interesting.
Well, these guys, they were defending. They weren't going somewhere.
Yeah.
Just, here comes the...
They had to take a ride. They didn't have to go to Germany to get a fist fight going.
Yeah, they did not want to give up their Spitfires for Mustangs. They did not want to do that.
Well, Bill, I don't want to give up my Spitfires for Mustangs either, but I'll take a Bearcat.
That Bearcat was beautiful.
Boy, this is a treat. Bill, I appreciate you lined this all up. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
This is something special.
like we were.
Well, we can forgive that. I may erase some of that out of the video where I was cursing you out and saying, who the hell is this guy?
You're not the first guy to do it.
Don't worry about
You'll be the
it.
last. You check the rifling in here?
Yes, Les looked at it. Where are you?
Back here. On the leading edge, in the black and white stripes, what are those things that look like staples, but they're really openings? I don't know.
Staples, but they're really openings.
There's a strip.
Oh, those are screw heads.
They're what?
Those are slot screws. That's kind of like a cam-shaped screwdriver.
Screw slot.
He just got light them all lined up.
Okay. Yeah, you just got them all exactly.
Oh, yeah. Look at this. All the slots are angled up evenly. This is unbelievable. I got it. And of course, the other stuff in itself would be interesting, but you march in a Spitfire, especially if Joe and Wendy are around. Now, Joe and I, between us, have made 6. Very, very, very cool afternoon here. Just as cool as it gets. Now, the reason I wanted to do some of the smaller details on this, because you never know when Joe and I are going to just up and make 2 more Spitfires. Look at the Zeus fittings. It looks like they have 4 rivets in each Zeus fitting. The exhausts are cool, and of course I've made 4 different molds for 4 different types of these to make composites, and they're always one of the high points of the plane.
I think it is.
Get it.
An RV6?
I think so.
Is it an RV6? I can't tell.
Side-by-side seating.
No, Bill's is side-by-side, right?
Yep. It looks like an RV.
John, is this an RV? Do you know?
It's an RV.
I just don't, I think it's an RV, but I couldn't be sure about the number. 6, 7, 8, 5.
What would you give to have a hangar like this? Look at this hangar to work. Just build models in. Put your O-gauge train layout over here.
To have a desk, a work table like
Yeah.
that. It rolls around.
That's right.
The light's built in.
Work table. Get my O-gauge model railroad over here. All my Brodak kits up over here. All my ARFs over here. All my Spitfires near the Spitfire.